All that adds up to a writer that hundreds of thousands of people love and can't wait for a new book, and we've got her and her new book, and please join me in welcoming Cherry Adair. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. I probably will end up sitting down there on a step, but you don't know how long I can stand on these shoes. Just in case you missed the part about me coming from South Africa, I should warn you that I am African American, having been born in Africa, and now I'm American. So don't, look at the skin color or anything. I'm African American. There's a diverse audience here, and I don't know what any of you are interested in. Is anybody here a writer? No. You're a writer? No, if you're writing, you're real. You're the real deal. The rest of you are readers, and I don't know if you read the kind of things that I write or what you might be interested in. So I'll just ramble on, and if you get that glazed look, I'll change the subject. How about that for a deal? I started writing when I was very young, really young, and cut pictures out of magazines and, the stuff that a lot of writers do. I'm no different than many other writers, other than being cuter and being African American. And I owned an interior design business, which I had for many years, and then started writing. And writing is not easy. First of all, you're by yourself. So nobody is standing behind you saying, wow, that is just brilliant. People are going to love that sentence, because nobody cares. They just go, it's a hobby, and just keep doing your hobby. So I did my hobby for many years, and I wrote 17 manuscripts before I actually sold, which I just consider them a learning experience. Now, I don't know, depending... No, I think everybody does this. I think a lot of people do this. A writer will write and write and write and not sell anything. And they take their manuscript, their precious child, and they stuff it under the bed with the dust bunnies. And then when they sell, they suddenly dig out all this stuff and, sell that because now they've got a name. And I don't know about you, but when I read something like that, I know that it's been dug from under the bed and fluffed up. And so I vowed that I would never have that. Am I screaming at you yet? Am I screaming at you yet? So I didn't want to do that. I wrote 17 books, and I considered them practice. Okay? I was just honing my craft and learning what I needed to learn. And when I sold my first book, I sat in my office with a shredder. It's too bad I don't drink, because, the story would have been better if I said I sat there with a bottle of wine in my shredder, but I don't drink. But I sat there and I actually shredded 17 books. And author friends of mine go, how could you do that? And I go, because it was practice. That wasn't the real deal. That was practice. So I sold my first book, and what happened was I had been writing for a while, and I thought, it doesn't look like I'm ever going to sell anything. So I thought, okay, if I haven't sold by the 15th of whatever month it was, I'm going to pack it up and just, put a sewing machine on my desk and be done with this. Because you can't beat your head against the wall forever. And so it was the day before I decided to pack up that I got the call. But I have to tell you the story first of how the call happened. It's very hard to sell a book. No matter what you think, you go into Borders or you come into the library and you look at all those books, and it never occurs to you that somebody sat there for months, maybe years, writing the book that you're going, this is not that good, and you put aside. So it takes a long time to write a book, and it's really hard work, and it's really hard to sell a book. Okay, so we established that. So what happened was that I met a woman at a conference, and I had been going to these conferences for years. Not sold, but going to the conferences. And I've been going so often, and I'm so noisy anyway, that people thought I was somebody. Okay, they didn't realize I was totally nobody. So they thought I was somebody. And I did not disillusion them, let me assure you. You know, I let them think that I was somebody. And this woman said to me, she was a writer, very well-known writer, and she was also a teacher in Canada, where she lived. And she said to me, "What is wrong with you?" We just met over a drink in the bar. She said, "What is wrong with you? Either you are a really crappy writer, or you are having the worst luck of anybody I know. You've been around forever." And she said, "Give me something to read." So I said, okay. And I had taken, 10 pages of something with me to the conference for a contest that I was in. And she read this, and she called me at about 1 a.m, and she said, "You're really good. You should be selling. Tell you what, I've got an editor in New York, and any of my students that I've sent to her, she's bought. She's going to buy this book. It's fabulous." So I was positive. Every atom in my body knew that I was going to sell this book to this editor. And every time I talked to my friend, she'd say, "Oh, I told her the whole plot, totally loves it, can't wait." She said, "Don't even put a letter with the manuscript, just send the manuscript today. I'm sending her a letter, she's expecting it. Consider it sold." I considered it sold. Foolishly, but I considered it sold. So I waited to hear, and I waited to hear. Didn't hear anything. And one day I was alone in the house, and there was a tap at the door, UPS, and I opened the door, and my manuscript was lying on my welcome mat. Now, if a publisher sends your manuscript back, it means they hated it, okay? They don't send it back if they love it. They keep it. So I took my poor dead child and carried it into the kitchen and laid this thing on my kitchen counter because I really didn't want to read the letter that said, "Thank you, but go away." And for some inexplicable reason, I started to cry. Now, I'm alone in my house. And I didn't go, "Oh, that's terrible," like I had done for 50 other, rejections, because we all get them, whatever walk of life you're in, you're going to be rejected sometime. Oh, no. I was in full-blown hysteria. And I walked around my house like that for several hours. Okay, several hours, hysterical crying. And I was sort of looking down on myself going, "Okay, Cherry, get a grip. Okay, you have totally lost it. Get a grip. Been rejected before, probably be rejected." But I really thought, and I'm talking to myself, and I'm inside the house walking in circles, and I'm outside the house walking in circles. My cat is following behind me. And finally, after several hours, I got a grip on myself, and I thought, okay, this is stupid. I need to send it out now. Now, I don't know if you know this, but this is a whole informative thing, just in case you get the wild idea to write a novel, is you never send the same dead baby novel out again. Okay, that manuscript now, those pages have cooties on them. You know this, right? I don't have to tell you. They have cooties. They have bad karma editor cooties on them, and you don't even want to touch it. Okay, and I've left it. It's sitting there. So I go into my office, which is just about to get a sewing machine to replace my computer, and I think, who do I know? And I'm still going. So I go, who do I know? Got some editor's name in Canada. I'm going to call her. I'm going to be really bold, and I'm going to call this woman. So I called her, and I did this. "This is Cherry Adair. I have, a manuscript that I'd like to send." You never call editors, by the way. You didn't know that either, did you? No, you don't call them. You send stuff. They don't want to talk to you. So I go, "Okay, and could I please send this manuscript?" I'm covering the phone every hiccup and sob, okay? And she says, "Oh, yeah, send it to me. I'd love to see it." I'm floored. So I go, "Oh, okay. All right. It is the middle of summer in California." Now, I just want to preface this. I make up a lot of stuff, which I will always tell you if I'm lying because I do it quite reasonably well. If I mention a number, I'm lying because I do that badly. But this is a real story. Every bit of this is really true. So at the time I was living in Northern California, just outside San Francisco. It's the middle of summer. It's hot as blue blazes. Okay, it's boiling. It's sweltering. And my car is in the shop. But I am not going to be thwarted by this. So I print out the manuscript on fresh, clean paper. And first of all, I can't find a whole ream. Okay, so I'm running around the house looking between other things to see if I can find extra sheets, to put in my printer. And then I'm going, one is a little creamer, than the other, and one is a little crisper than the other, and this is not good because, you want it all good. You want good comma, nice manuscript, good comma going out. So I print this thing off, and I put on my lavender tennis shoes. Now, I'll just step aside so that you can see by my girth that I don't do a lot of walking. Okay, exercise is not my friend. I don't believe in it. I think it's bad for my health. So I don't do a lot of walking. But I have phenomenal walking shoes. Colors, to coordinate with whatever I'm wearing. But I don't walk anywhere. They're just for show. So I put on my lavender tennis shoes, which have a little Velcro pocket on the side. Don't mock. There's no need to mock. They're lovely. And I have a lavender T-shirt on. And my nose looks like Jimmy Durante after, an all-night bender. I've like this big, fat, swollen red nose. My eyes are all puffed up, no makeup, and my hair is all over the place. But damn it, I am determined. I am just going to walk to the post office, and I'm going to mail this manuscript. I am psyched and ready to go. So I put $20 in my little Velcro pocket on the side of my lavender tennis shoes, and I am, woman, hear me roar, I am now going to walk 2 freaking miles to the post office. This is like going to the Amazon for me. I mean, this is like a big thing. 2 miles. You sweat. Folks, you sweat if you walk 2 miles, especially in the heat. Off I go. I'm tromping along. I am, woman, hear me roar. I'm so proud of myself, and I've got, the manuscript is in a post office, the Tyvek envelope that the post office has, and no purse or anything because, good God, another 2 pounds on me, would make me drop dead from a heart attack. And off I go. And I'm trying not to sweat on this envelope, because I don't want, that's bad cooties too. You can't sweat on the envelope. And I walk up, and there's a main street called Thornton Avenue between me and the post office. So it's a mile this side and a mile that side. And I get to Thornton Avenue, and there's a police car skewed across the middle of the street. The guy goes, whoa, 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 lady, you can't cross here. And I go, I'm going to the post office. See, I want to go, see, I'm an author. I'm going to sell this book. And he goes, you can't walk across here. We've got a hostage situation in the apartment down the street. And the guy's got his girlfriend in there. So I said, okay, I'll just sneak across the street because it's over there. And he goes, no. You can't. You have to go down and around. And I go, do you know how far it is to go down and around the corner and all this stuff? He looked at me like, yeah, I don't care. Lose some of that weight and maybe you can make it faster, lady. So I trekked to the post office. Now I've added a mile, almost a mile, to my trip. And I get to the post office and I stand in line. I'm the last person in line, sweating unattractively in my lavender T-shirt and matching tennies. And I get to the counter and the guy says, he takes the envelope and he says, it's $21.49. And I wanted to grab him by the throat and say, I don't know if you understand the trauma I've had today. Look at this face. What do you think this face has been through? So I said, well, can I leave the envelope here? Because I've got to walk home. Can I leave the envelope? He goes, no, you can't leave it here. This is why there's shootings in post offices all across the country, okay? But I wasn't toting a gun. So I walk back. Now I get to Thornton Avenue. Now the press is there. I'm thinking, okay, the shooting's over. We're done. We captured the guy. There's a whole police force there. Catch the guy. And the guy, the police officer says, you absolutely cannot cross. Shots have been fired. I go, did he kill her? Is she dead? In which case, capture him, let's get on with it. And he goes, no, she's still in there, and, you can't cross. So I now walk. Now it's further, because now they've cordoned off this whole long main drag in Fremont, where I lived. They've cordoned it off. So now I've got like a 4-mile total, trip going around. So I go, God, this is ridiculous. So I go home, I get more money. I've got this, I put this thing now in a different envelope because my hands have sweated all over it. It's like got a waste. The manuscript, the envelope's got a waste. And I go back, and now the SWAT team is there, and the press is there, and CNN is there, and every bystander is there, and I'm thinking I can cross. But now these people have seen me twice. So I'm trying to sidle, to get through, and they go, lady, no, lady, bullhorn, lady, no, off, you've got to go down. And I go, oh, man. So I go all the way back to the post office. I don't know, because, I'm fabulous at numbers, and I won't even pretend not, I added up how many. To me, it's like 82 miles. I don't know. It seemed like it. And after going backwards and forwards, I'm just soaked, totally unattractive, sweaty, bulbous nose, squinty little, like I've got little slitty eyes. My feet hurt because while these tennis shoes are very attractive, they are not comfortable, okay? They're not meant to be walked in, okay? They're just meant to be under a table somewhere while I'm looking cute. And I get back into the house, and there's nobody to complain to. There's nobody to complain and bitch to, which is what I would want to do. If I had a cell phone, I would have been on it. And so I get back into my office, and I'm just exhausted. I'm 57 years old. This was, 10 years ago? Okay, so 47 years old. I had never walked that much in 47 years, okay? Total, I'd never walked that much. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. I should have dropped 60 pounds just like that. I didn't. And so I collapse on my back on the floor in my office. I'm totally like a limp noodle. And I turn my head, and I'm thinking, I might be a limp noodle, but, look at me. I did it. I pulled this off. I actually got the thing mailed, despite everything. And I turn over, and I look, and the last page of the manuscript is still in my printer. And we didn't have, faxes and emails and stuff then, so I had to mail it the next day. So I had to call this poor editor in New York, and, she wasn't that interested in my saga, although I did try to tell her. And but the story is that she actually bought the book a week later. So that's the good news of that story. But what happened was, she called me early in the morning. And just so you know this, my husband will say to me when I get home, whenever that is, sometime next week, he'll say to me, so what were the people like in the audience? Were they engrossed? Were they hanging on your every word? Did they laugh at all the right spots? Oh, they were frowning. Were those people yawning? And he wants to know, what they were wearing, what they were doing, what they were saying, they being you, right? So he wants to know all of this stuff, which is quite annoying, but I can make stuff up. You will have no bearing on what happened tonight is the story that I will tell my husband when I go home. It has no bearing, but it doesn't matter because he loves me and he just goes, uh-huh. So I knew when I got the call, this is a big deal. So I knew that David would want to know exactly what this editor said. So it's about 7 o'clock in the morning. Of course, I'm totally comatose at 7 o'clock in the morning because, like walking, 7 o'clock in the morning is not in my vocabulary at all. And so I'm trying to be reasonable, I'm saying, oh, yeah, that's fabulous. And editors know when they talk to an author with the first sale that the author doesn't hear anything. We just go deaf because it's so exciting. You want to say, I'll pay you to produce my book. Can I pay you to produce my book? And of course, no. So she's talking to me, and I get a big yellow legal pad that's sitting out on the kitchen counter. And I start writing down every word verbatim that she is telling me. I'm just thrilled. And I'm thinking to myself, this is amazing to me that I can be writing notes on this conversation, which I'm not actually comprehending. I'm not hearing, really. And I'm thinking to myself at the same time, this is incredible how the brain works, I'm thinking to myself, that I can be writing this down and not really hearing what she's saying. So get off the phone after 20 minutes or something, and I'm beside myself with excitement. This is so thrilling and so fabulous. And, I call my husband first, and he goes, tell me everything, every nuance, every word. What did she say? And we don't care about the money part of it. What did she say? And what did she say about the book? And what did she like about the book? And I said, just wait till you get home. Just wait till you get home. I've got everything written down. And then, of course, I'm impatient to get off the phone because I've told him now I want to spread the word to, the universe. And so, of course, I call all my friends and everybody and, friends of friends of friends and people I sort of know and the lady at the copy center and, the lady at the coffee shop. And I call everybody. So my husband comes home from work early, and he goes, okay, come on, tell me what she said. So all I've done the whole day, the entire day, is call people, okay, all over the world, just in case you think I didn't. Call everybody in South Africa, all friends, cousins, relatives, everybody. Spread the word. Here I am, I'm famous, woohoo, I'm going to make $1 million. And so David comes in, my husband comes in, and he's got a cup of coffee, and he comes into my office, and he sits there, and he says, okay, come on, tell me. And I get out this yellow legal notepad, and I just start cracking up, because I have written 17 pages in shorthand. I don't do shorthand. I don't know shorthand. I can't read shorthand, and I can't write shorthand. So somehow I had a disconnect between... I guess I had a brain. I was writing little wiggles and squiggles with little dots and lines and cool stuff and staying on 17 pages. 17 pages. I still have them. And when I do workshops on what it's like, when you get your first contract, I show people, I say, see this? Don't do that. You need to listen to these people. So that was my first sale, and that was in 1993. And I thought, woohoo, I have it made. This is good. This is a fabulous thing. I have it made. Then I couldn't sell another book. For 5 years, I couldn't sell another book. And I went through what most writers do is, those stupid people in New York, they don't know what they're doing. They're all 12. Well, you know that, right? Do you know that editors in New York are 12? They are. They're all about 12 years old, they're size 2, and they only wear black until they can find a darker color. Do you know this? Okay. So across the board, okay. And it's interesting because you go anywhere at a conference or anything and you know who the editors are. They're really super young. And is that camera? Okay. Okay, I'll just say this just between us. They're all in their breeding years. Okay, they all breed. So just as soon as an author gets a fabulous editor that you just love, she breeds. Okay, and she goes off and spawns and then maybe comes back, but usually doesn't because she wants to stay with her child, which is understandable but annoying. I find that annoying. So, but you can't stop them. You just can't. They want to do their own thing out there, like real human beings, which is just wrong when you've got a good editor. So I couldn't sell for 5 years and blamed everybody. It was everybody else's fault but mine. And then I got a grip, and because I usually take blame for pretty much everything, wife, mother, I should have been Catholic or Jewish. I'm neither, but I could have been because I just absorbed the guilt of the universe. And I went, okay, it can't be these people's fault. I'm doing something wrong. So I sat down and I wrote a career plan for myself. And it was quite interesting because I didn't have a career and nobody cared that I was there waiting to, make my fame and fortune. And so nobody cared, but I wrote a career plan and started implementing my career plan. And it worked. It worked. And I sold my first single title, which is called Kiss and Tell, in 2000, or 1999 I actually sold it. And my husband and I had gone to court. Somebody had smashed his car, and we had gone to court, and we were just having a bad week, just a bad week, as weeks sometime go. The lavender tennis shoes, by the way, I still kept because I figured they were lucky. But I wasn't wearing them this particular day. I was barefoot, as I am when I'm writing. And David was home, and we'd been to court and won, and he was home doing something or other on the phone. And because he likes to know everything that's happening, when my agent called and said, such and such from Random House is going to be calling you in a few minutes. She's your new editor. We just sold to her. And I had done, whoa, oh, this is so exciting. He was in the office the room next to mine. So I'm going like this. Round the corner. Come in here. Come in here. Good news. I'm mouthing. And he's going, you know, it's a guy thing. I'm sorry, but it's a, I've got important man business. Hey, I saw that. I saw you taking a nap there. This is man business. So anyway, so he's not coming in. So the editor calls me, and I do what every single author does. You know, you go, I am going to be so fabulous. I am going to write you clean manuscripts. I'm going to get my book in on time, if not early. I'm going to do all this promotion, you know, all the stuff that an author's saying. Now, while I'm saying this, I'm sitting at my desk, barefoot, and my cat comes in. The cat was 15 pounds, poor dead kitty. He's dead now. I didn't kill him. It had nothing to do with it. He just died in his sleep, which was nice. But anyway, the cat had arrived 14 years before. I'm allergic to cats. I love cats, but I'm allergic. And the cat arrived 15 years before, full grown, ginger and white, green eyes, beautiful cat. And we called him TC because we called him temporary cat. We thought he was going to leave, and he didn't. He stayed. So here's 15 pounds of TC, comes into my office, and he meows for attention. And now I am totally engrossed in talking to my brand new editor who is going to start my career, which is going to soar. Okay? I am going to make a really good impression. And I'm trying to talk slowly because, you know, what happens when you get excited? You talk faster and faster and you don't make any sense at all. So I'm trying to be cool and sophisticated and sincere, interesting, you know, all the things I want to be. And the cat's meowing at me, and I'm ignoring the cat. And finally, the cat deposits on my barefoot the tail end of a rat. The back end of a rat, half a rat. So I'm sitting there talking to this editor going, yes, I'm going to be on my foot. But I can't let her know, even with a jar of my voice, okay? And I am trying to kick this thing off, and it goes flying across my office. And I'm grossed out. I'm beyond grossed out. And I'm trying so hard to be cool and sophisticated. And the cat meows again. And I go, you know, the reason you temporary cat is because I am going to kill you stone dead. Okay, do not bring me offerings when I'm on the phone. And as I'm thinking that, and I'm talking and being, you know, cool and sophisticated and articulate and everything else, the cat throws up the first half of the rat on my other foot. And now I've got cat stuff on my foot, and this stuff doesn't want to get off my foot. And I can't even describe to you my grossed outness, for want of a better word. I am so repulsed, and I am trying not to gag because I've got like dead innards on my foot. And then, so this is how, I'll take my shoe off because otherwise it's going to go flying. I got to this is really bad. This just shows you how sophisticated and cool I really am. So I'm on the phone like this, I'm going, oh, thing like this, and I'm going to my husband to get him to please. I don't care if he hears this conversation. I just want him to come in there with a wet towel and get the cat stuff off my foot. So years later, the editor is talking to somebody, and she said, and it was so interesting talking to Cherry that day because she sounded so calm, and then she got a little hysterical. And I told her what happened. So when she goes to conferences, she always says, you know, if you have a dead rat on your foot and you need to go, you can actually tell me, and I'll let you go. I'll let you go. So, yeah, that's my story of selling. Does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, I'll just go. Keep going. Why are you sitting so far away? Did you get buttons? Did you get my button? You got nothing? Oh, shame. I've got stuff here for you. Does anybody have questions? Yes?
Even though you shredded the early work, did any of the characters, the scenes, the setups, or the themes filter its way into your later books?
No, none of that did. But, you know, talking about themes, I'll tell you, I don't know if this is interesting if you're a reader, but as a writer, I found this fascinating. I was at a class about 5 years ago, And whoever was giving the class she was very interesting, and she said, we all have a theme, right, when you're writing. And I sat there and I thought about it, and I went, well, I don't have a theme. My books are about counter-terrorists. The counter-terrorist always gets it. I mean, he is always demolished, and the guy always gets the girl. Okay? I'm proud to write romance. I love to read it. I'm passionate about writing it. I love to talk about it. And people can get a little snotty about romance, because they go, well, it's a formula. Well, yeah, so is a cowboy story, and so is a mystery. You always know who did it. So mine are counter-terrorists, and the guy gets the girl. Okay? So I'm sitting in the audience and I'm thinking to myself, no, I don't really write a particular theme. And it just stayed with me, that thought, until I realized that because of what I write, everything in my book is aimed towards family. And it's an interesting thing because I don't do that consciously. I mean, obviously I plot my books and I know what the story's about, and it's guy meets girl. This is a synopsis. Running, chasing, sex, falling down, sex, shooting, sex, falling down, running, sex, danger, scary people coming, bad people die, good people, sex, laughing, sex, fun, happy ending. There, synopsis. Free. So that's what I write. But I realize that it's always one of my characters is searching for the connection for family. So either she will have a family, and one of the things that attracts him to her is because she has that family connection, or the other way around. And I realized that all of my books have that all of them, even if it's not family per se, mother, father, brothers and sisters, it's a connection with other people that he doesn't have. Because my guys are counter-terrorist operatives, and so they don't have a close connection with anybody, really. So I thought that was a very interesting thing, but I'm slow on the uptake, and I didn't realize that that's what I do. And then other people, in whatever kind of books they write, if you read somebody's books one after the other, you'll see a similar theme through all the books. It's either family connection or redemption or revenge or something that's a theme through all their books. And the way you do that is either to sit down and read somebody's whole body of work, which we normally don't do. But I bet if you're not feeling well, if you're sick, if you've had surgery, if you've done something or you're really stressed, you'll go to an old book instead of a new book. So you'll go and read a book that you've read before, maybe several times, and it's like going back to an old friend, because even if you're distracted, if you're in pain or you're not feeling well or whatever, you can pick out parts of the story, so you can pick out little parts of it. So we tend, when we're not feeling well, to read, we'll have a favorite author that there's something comforting about that read. Something familiar, that we know those people and we really like them. And that's when I found I can see the theme that goes through that author's books, because we tend to go back and have that same theme every time we write a new story. So I thought that was kind of interesting. One of the things, I'm off the subject, if you could keep up, this is like, when I was a kid and I was at the dinner table, my dad used to make me put my hand up because I changed the subject and he'd go, are we still talking about cars? And we'd be, talking about the beach. Whoops, change of subject. One of the things that was very cool about Hot Ice and White Heat, the hardcover, is that I do a lot of research. I'm on a different subject. You with me here? So one of the things that I do is a lot of research. And by the time I've finished a book, I have a binder. It's always white, and it's about this thick. It's a 10-inch. No, really, it is 10 inches. Because it says so on the cover, so I know, because I told you no numbers for me. But it's 10 inches thick, and I put all my research in it and what my character, everything about my characters and stuff. And I've had some truly awesome experiences with research. One book that I wrote, I don't know if anybody has read me before or will read me after, but I did a book. The first book of the series was about a sister, which was Kiss and Tell, and then she had 4 brothers who worked for TFLAC, which is my counter-terrorist group. And one of the brothers did not work for TFLAC. He had started off as a Navy SEAL. And I don't really do Navy SEALs, but, I researched it. It was very interesting. But I like my guys better than Navy SEALs. They're cooler to me. So Michael sailed around the world. He had been in a big thing with a terrorist. The bad guy's always a terrorist. He and his best friend, while they had been Navy SEALs, and the terrorist had killed his best friend and put out Michael's eye. He had only one eye. By the way, Michael had only one eye. My first book, the girl was in a cast from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. I've got a thing. So nobody wears lavender tennis shoes, though. So anyway, so I was at a conference, and I had just started this book, and I met somebody, and she looked lonely. I was at a cocktail party, and she was standing there, and, I have a tendency to pick people up. Right, Gail? I was just somewhere and picked some strange lady up. She was very sweet. But anyway, so this woman said to me, she happened to be an agent. I have an agent. And I said, we can be friends. I don't need an agent, but I can introduce you to people. She was new. And so we were sitting talking, and she said, what's the book about that you're writing about? And I said, I've got this ex-Navy SEAL, and he's blinded in one eye, and he's traveling around the world. And what happened was he had such a traumatic experience when he lost his eye that he's afraid of water. So I made a Navy SEAL, ex now, afraid of water. And so through the whole book, he goes into the water, an inch at a time. And then, of course, I make the heroine stuck in a cave filled with water, and he's got to go and get her out, before he's ready, really. And this woman said to me, if you need anybody, I've got a guy who could do all that stuff, the diving and the sailing and all this stuff. And I said, yeah, that would be fabulous. I'd love to talk to somebody. So I got back to Seattle, and called her and said, can you give me the name of that guy? And she said, well, let me just have him call you. See if it's okay with him. And the guy turned out to be Jacques Cousteau's grandson, which was fabulous. Half the time I want to tell people that and name drop. I forget what his name was. But his name was Fabien Cousteau, and he was fabulous. And more than just the information that he gave me, which was awesome, was the fact that he talked about my characters like they were real people. Now, I'm used to that with my friends who are writers, because we talk like that. But to have somebody like him talk about my characters was the coolest thing. So he'd call me and he'd say, I was thinking about the ship. I don't think you haven't got the right ship. And because I just found it researching online. And he goes, let's build the ship. And so we spent like 4 hours, him asking me what I need, what the end result was, because they're going to go through a huge storm. So I needed that information so the ship would stay together. But he was fabulous. And he'd say, okay, his feet would be this far apart, and the dials would look like this. And when he left, he'd turn this way. And, it was absolutely fabulous. So he was for In Too Deep, was the book that he helped me with. He was just amazing. And even cooler than that, he put me on his mailing list. So wherever he's gone in the world in the last 5 years, I'm on his mailing list. So I read about him, filming the whale thing wherever he was, and really cool. And then I did another book, which I'm quite famous for, but not for any of the right reasons. I used to read historical romances. Oh, this is a not good thing with that little red light on. Maybe I shouldn't say. Whatever. Never mind. So I used to read historical romances, and, they were pretty spicy for their day. And they'd have the heroine. Okay, some of you might just close your ears at this, just pretend I'm not saying it. So anyway, the heroine and the hero would rescue her, okay? And you've got to picture this. She's in a huge crinoline, and she's got all these petticoats and the dress and the this and the what, and it's pitch dark, and it's always a black stallion, okay? They're riding on a black stallion in the pitch dark, raining, thunder, lightning, whatever, and they have wild monkey sex on the back of this horse. And, then I'm sitting there thinking about it, just Don't listen, okay? And I'm sitting thinking about the logistics of this as a writer, scientifically, and I'm going, this is so not possible, okay? It's so physically not possible, and I'm going, okay, so the skirt goes over the head. Okay, so she's blind, and then what is he going to go? No, don't put it over my head, lady. I'm trying to drive this horse, whatever you do with a horse. And I'm thinking, this is totally impossible. So I write this book, and it's set in Egypt. And I can't help myself. I'm writing about they're on camels, and they're going through the desert, and she's sleepy, and I'm thinking, this is a sweet romantic scene. And he pulls her off. I should not tell this story. But anyway, he pulls her off the camel, and she's sitting in front of him, and I thought, I just cannot resist this. I just cannot resist having camel sex. So I did. I mean, they did. And it amused me enormously to the point that afterwards, I was amused. And so when the book was finished, I wrote a letter to myself. Now, I used to be an interior designer, okay, and that's one thing. And the other thing is, if I could do anything to suck up some time that I'm not writing, I'm okay with that. Okay, all writers have this thing. So I go to my graphics program, and I make a letterhead. Really formal-looking letterhead from the Camel Union, okay? And I write myself a letter from the Camel Union. Dear Miss Adair, I should have brought it. I didn't think I was going to talk about it. But anyway, it's been brought to our attention that you have made these two camels watch unnatural acts. And they are so traumatized that they can barely function, and they're both in therapy. And the letter just goes on, just berating me for abusing these two camels. Okay, and they're both in therapy. So I write a letter back. Now, all I'm going to do is put this on my website, okay? It's an innocent thing. This is the problem. When I'm amusing myself, I'm in trouble. I'm already in trouble because I'm going to offend somebody. So this is just to go on my website. So I write a letter back on my letterhead saying, Dear Cyril, because of course he had to have a name like Cyril, Rupsi and whatever the other camel's name was, read the first draft of the manuscript. They were fine with it. They did not have to watch unnatural acts. They could have averted their gaze. They chose not to. And they were in no way offended because I offered them therapy afterwards, and they refused. They read the last draft. They were fine with it. And they have, in fact, asked to be in my next book. Now, I am highly entertained by myself. I think I'm incredibly amusing, and I put these up on my website. Just for readers, people understand, okay? My readers understand stuff. Okay, the rest of the world might not, but my readers get it. Oh, no, some magazine gets hold of the first letter, and they publish it. Like it's a real thing. Like it's a real thing. In total, that whole letter with the letterhead, with the fake address, the whole thing, signed by Cyril, whatever his stupid name is. Okay, and they put this letter in a magazine. They don't say this is a joke. I get thousands of letters, people going, the Camel Union, they are idiots. They have no sense of humor. I'm going, yeah, they have no sense of humor. So I kept all these letters going, okay, people, you're not supposed to believe that this letter is the real thing. But they did. They believed it. But I had a reader in Cairo. I sent out on my mailing list if anybody knew anybody in Cairo, if they could, just answer some questions, because I do tons of research, and then I like to talk to people too. And there was a reader, there were actually two of them in Cairo, and one of the women, I had a car chase, that went past the pyramids and then went downtown Cairo, and this woman actually drove the route and took pictures for me all the way along. And I had a map, so I followed a map, and she said, well, this is a one-way street now, but you can go this way. Now, the thing is, if you read that book, you wouldn't know or care if it was the real stuff, but I like having the real stuff in it, and to me, that is part of the character of it, of getting the right directions and what foods they eat and the language and the sandstorms and all that stuff. Now, in White Heat, I had a reader who sent me a fabulous email. She'd read something else, whatever was before that. something else, and loved it. And she said, "Oh, you've got to do a book set in Italy." Well, I'm obsessed with Italy. I must be African American Italian is what I am really. I love Italy. I could do every book I have there. And so she was fantastic. And her name is Rosella. I actually dedicated the book to her. And she was amazing. So I said, okay, I want Emily to live in, she's got plenty of money, so I want her to live in a palazzo right in the middle of Florence. Where would she go where would she have her dry cleaning done? Where would she go for flowers? Where would she, And Rosella would send me pictures. A lot of the stuff I asked for, I didn't use, I didn't need. But I had it, and I had a total picture of where this woman painted and where she walked when she was going to a restaurant and what her real favorite restaurant was and the dishes that she ate there. I had pictures of it. And then she had her mentor live just outside Florence. And Rosella sent me pictures of, it's actually open to the public, it's not a private villa, but I used this fabulous fancy villa with pictures and whatever to put Daniel's, made it as Daniel's villa. And it was so fantastic. I mean, it's so fabulous for me as a writer to say, okay, if I'm going from here, have you read the book? Have you read Whitehead? Okay, I won't tell you. If you're going from here to there, what am I seeing? What do I see on either side of the street? And she'd say, okay, you see this statue and this something else. And it's all real. It's the route to get to from here to there. And for me, it just makes it a richer experience to write because I'm so excited that I can actually see what my characters would see. She was absolutely fabulous. Now she calls me once a week and I'm going, okay, we're done with the research here now. You must stop calling me. But she's fabulous. She's absolutely fabulous. I'm going to go and visit her in September because now we like this. I'll take her my lavender tennis shoes and give them to her as a gift. Does anybody have anything they want to know? Because I'll just keep yakking away. Yeah.
Back to the books that didn't sell and the books that do. Did your theme change? Did your writing style change?
I don't think so. I think it was the attitude. It was more the attitude of, let's see, okay, here's an example. If you say to a 10-year-old, make your bed and make it neat, okay, and they just pull the top cover over and it looks kind of neat, but you can see the sheet hanging down at the bottom. Do you know what I'm talking about if you do that to a kid? Or they really make their bed and tuck and smooth, okay? I was making it the first way. I was writing a little, but there's nobody waiting. That's the problem. There's nobody waiting and saying, that book is due. So you've got all the time in the world. I mean, you can take 20 years to write a first book. Now, if you sell that book, they're not going to wait 20 years for you to hurry up and give them the second book. That's the problem. And there's a big thing called second book syndrome. I mean, it's totally common that an author will have a book out and the publisher and the readers are going, whoa, this is fabulous. Give us the second book. And the author's going, I don't know how to write. I forgot. I don't know how. And I've written, 14, 50. I didn't remember. That's cool. I love that. I can't remember how many books I've written. But there's a stage somewhere in the writing of it that I suddenly go, I fooled everybody. I fooled them this long. Somehow I've managed to sustain fooling them this long. And this is the book that they're going to read where they go, oh, she's a total fake. She doesn't know how to write. And I go through that every single book that I write, which maybe is good because it kind of keeps me on my toes. And then, I got to do it and polish it and polish it and polish it and whatever. But it's an interesting thing about authors in that second book. It's terrifying. It's really scary. Yeah.
Just like when you get the pictures and then you can just picture yourself writing the book and what the scenery is like and everything. Well, that's the same way it is for us who read it.
To read it.
And I just read one of your books. And
So you don't have a bad heart, obviously.
I read on the thin ice, and I'm curious. The teapot, are they all the same group?
No, they change from book to book. What I try to do is I have a whole book full of characters. So say I use one guy, I just mention him. If I mention his first and last name and they're interesting, he'll be in another book. But in Star Trek, the show Star Trek, the guy that they never gave a name and he always had a red shirt, that they'd send down to the planet first? You knew he was going to be eaten by something revolting. He never had a name. I do that too. They have the name like, I don't know. Now I can't think of a, boring name. But, Cyril would be a name. But I got to tell you something about names. Now, I have a girlfriend, and she and I are critique partners, and she's a fabulous writer. And we wrote an anthology together, short stories. Okay? So this is fabulous. We finish our books, and she calls me, and she says, oh, man, I just got my copy edits back, and twice I used your character's name, Joe. And I said, I would never write a character Joe. I don't like the name Joe. I don't particularly think it's sexy. Hope nobody's Joe in here. I just don't think Joe's that great a name for a hero. It's a long pause on the phone. She goes, Cherry, can you open your document on your computer and look at the name of the guy in the book you just finished yesterday? And I said, yeah, I'm telling you, his name isn't Joe. Open the document, his name's Joe Zorn. And I go, oh, his name's Joe Zorn. It's not Joe. And she goes, isn't his first name Joe? And I go, well, yeah, but his name's Joe Zorn. Because to me, my brain, it's the whole name. And she goes, uh-huh. So his name is Joe. Yeah, it is. So what I do is I've got a T-flack binder. And every single character that I've ever used is in that binder. And so I will pick somebody's name that I like. I'll put my team together and I go, and I need to have names for them. So I'll go, this person and this person. I go, oh, he's got a fabulous name. And so I'll keep track of the names. And if I use them a couple of times in different books, he's got it almost like a dossier. So that when I go back in and decide to write his book, I've got all the information, so I don't suddenly say, this guy is 6'8" and he's, got blue eyes where he was 6'2" and he had green eyes in the last book. And as funny as that sounds, saying it, you have no idea. When readers read, they know everything. They know every single thing. And now I'm from Seattle, and there's a lady, she is a darling. But she's almost, not quite, but almost a stalker. I think a stalker should bring candy, but, that's just me. But she always sits in the front row. And so I'll be standing up here, and she'll be correcting me. It's like having my husband in the audience, because she's heard all my jokes, and she knows all the stories, and she knows these characters better than me. I'm on to the next book already. So, sometimes I'll go, okay, which guy was that? But she knows everything. So she came to me one day, and she's sitting there, and there's a room full of people. And she said, you made a big mistake in, I don't know, whatever. And I go, okay, I'll learn my mistakes. I'm okay with it. And she goes, you made a big mistake because, in such and such, you said that such and such had twins. And then you put that she had, one baby in 1999 and one baby in 2000. And I go, well, yeah, one was born before midnight and one was born after midnight. I mean, I remember. And then somebody else wrote to me, and people get really indignant and said, you had this baby in it. What's that cradle thing that you carry babies in, whatever that thing is. Cradle thing was, it was Thanksgiving and the baby was in this little carry thing at the table. And she said, that is so wrong because that baby is much too old to be in that carry thing. I'm going, yeah. So I wrote back and I said, well, of course, that was the second child. The first child was upstairs with her nanny. So I went, okay, now I really need to keep track of all this stuff because people remember and they write on me if I make a big mistake. They go, hey, fix that. Did you have a question? Okay, I'll tell you where my hotel is. You all come over. We'll have banana splits and we'll finish. Yeah. 10 years, 12 years. It was a long time. Yeah, it was a long time. It used to take about a year. Yeah, I did. But, I had other things. I had a family, and I was an interior decorator, and I did that. And, when you're a writer, it's hard. But then anything that's worthwhile having is hard. I mean, if you're a painter or an artist or, anything that you're going to hope somebody's going to buy your work, it's hard. Life's hard. If you're going to give up, then you're going to give up. If you're going to persevere, then you're going to get something. And I persevered. So, you do that with anything. Where's the candy? Candy? Why did she bring buttons? We want candy. Anybody else before we go away from the little blinky dot? Oh, the book signing. We have a book signing outside. Please come. Please come. Please buy books because I'm landscaping and I need the money. Thank you, everybody. Go to an old book instead of a new book. So you'll go and read a book that you've read before maybe several times, and it's like going back to an old friend, because even if you're distracted, if you're in pain or you're not feeling well or whatever, you can pick out parts that you know the story, so you can pick out little parts of it. So we tend, when we're not feeling well, to read, we'll have a favorite author. There's something comforting about that read, something familiar that we know those people and we really like them. And that's when I found, and I can see the theme that goes through that author's books, because we tend to go back and have that same theme every time we write a new story. So I thought that was kind of interesting. One of the things, I'm off the subject, to keep up, this is like, when I was a kid and I was at the dinner table, my dad used to make me put my hand up because I changed the subject and he'd go, we're still talking about cars? And we'd be, talking about the beach.